All right, welcome to our Quick Bytes mini webinar. And today we're going to be looking at our SharePoint permissions. We're going to log into office.com. Get our two-factor authentication here. And then we're going to go ahead and open up SharePoint. And we're going to be working in our sample site. And we're going to take a look at our documents. Now, documents is just what it says. This is your file folders where your files live within SharePoint. You also have your notebook, recycle bin, Outlook conversations. There's more features here, but for right now, we're just going to be working in documents. And I'm going to create one so we've got a sample real quick here. Yeah, so here's our document we just created, and I've got a copy to look at the other permissions. When you look at your document, I'm going to go to your info tab right here. And this is going to show you who has access to that particular document. Now remember up here, your members, that's who has access to the entire SharePoint site. But you can also change the permissions on a more granular level with files and folders. We'll just throw a sample folder in there as well. So we're looking at our document file, and we're going to see who has access. Now within SharePoint, you have three main categories plus guests. The first are owners, those who can see the file, delete the file, they have full permission. Now the members also have that read-write permission, but they can't control who can and can't see the file. Only the owners can grant permissions to the files. And visitors, by default, they are read-only. So all they can do are view the documents. But if you click down here, you can change that for visitors or members based on the file or the folder. When dealing with permissions, you always want to do at least I can't think of the phrasing. The general principle is least permissions first. So you start out with your big container, the whole SharePoint site, and you have just the members that need to have access to all the documents. And say we have this folder, and if you click in the folder, you still have access to that info here under the little I. I like being outside the folder while we work in it. So we can say this particular folder, visitors can't see at all. Nor can members. So now the only people that can see this particular folder are the owners. You still have everybody in the SharePoint site itself, but since I'm here as the owner, this folder is only going to appear for me. All the rest of the permissions for the site remain the same. So in general, you want to go from the site itself to folders to individual documents. You don't want to grant everybody access to everything by default. You only give them the access to the documents that they need. Now, one thing to be aware of is if it won't let you change these permissions for multiple files at a time. You have to change it individually. So if you do know that you have to give permission to several different files, your best method is to move it into the folder and then change the permissions for the folder. That way, anything that's within the folder has this access. So it'll automatically populate, but then you can, even within that folder, see, it applied the not shared of the folder itself, but we can go in and change that, say this particular file, Savannah also needs access to. So now, so this file isn't shared, only I have access, but this one, Savannah has access to. So that's the best way to assign these permissions. Now, the best thing to do, especially if you are setting up your file system for the very first time, is to start with an org chart. If you don't have one, just grab a scratch piece of paper, put down your name, any other co-owners, and then go through kind of the categories, the roles. Do you have managers underneath you? Do you have trainers, HR people that need access to specific files? Do you have people like salespeople that need access to pricing documents? Or just entry level employees that only need access to certain specific documents? So you start by identifying the people that may need access, and then you go through and see which level of access you're going to give them. It's common to give the entry level employees read only access so they can read the important documents, but they can't make any changes to them or delete them. Once you have that figured out, then you arrange your files in a way that matches that structure. So your top level employees, yourself, and any business owners would be owners in your SharePoint group. Your managers or trainers are typically members. And then the entry level employees would be visitors. Guests are people outside of your company that you want to give access to specific resources. So inside the company, you have owners, members, and visitors. And then guests are anybody that's not in your company that you're sharing permissions to. So once you've identified your people and identified your folder structure, then you go in and actually assign those permissions. So getting set up for the first time, it's always going to take the longest, and there can be a lot of trial and error as you move files around and get used to the idea of assigning and checking permissions. But once it's set up, you know what folder it's going into, and you know what people should have access to that folder. And then you can always make exceptions on the file level if needed. But in general, you're going to want to group it either by SharePoint site entirely or by your folder. That's the easiest way to apply these permission levels to a large amount of files. All right. Do we have any questions today?
I don't think so. I think you covered them all. I guess the one question I would possibly ask is, let's say we just
I
hired
think
someone.
my headset isn't working. Hang on.
Said
Bear
your
with
headset's
me.
not working. Yep.
All right, let's try that again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm sorry, guys. I still don't have audio. How about now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome, I can hear you. Did you guys hear any of that? Was my system working for any of that?
Yeah, it worked through the entire thing.
Okay. So that's the good news. The bad news is I didn't record it. Oh wait, no, I did.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Oh. I don't even remember starting the recording. I was going to be bummed. I feel like that was my best one so far.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Okay, awesome. Any questions?
I think you covered most of it. The only question I probably would have asked is, like, say we hired someone who was a manager, and we don't have an employee email for them yet, and they use their personal email. If I were to add them to our SharePoint and need them to be able to look at manager files through SharePoint, first of all, I guess I don't know if that's even possible since it's not a Office 365 account, but
yes, you'll still just like I did with up in here, you wouldn't necessarily give them access to the whole site, but you can absolutely, I mean, you can certainly do that, or you can give them access to specific folders, and it'll be just like adding this one. They don't have to be an Office 365 user.
okay.
Anybody can log in as long as they've been added as part of the group. But I would definitely recommend that as soon as possible we transition them to a company email, because it does make it a lot simpler to join and remove them from groups, and to be able to quickly remove access to all groups and block them as needed.
Okay. So when you use external users, you said that they're usually guests. Is there a way to make it so that they are able to be marked as a manager or whatever, or is it just?
No, the guest designation, it literally means you're not a part of this Office 365 account.
Okay.
So the members, the owners, members, and visitors only apply to these people in our active users.
Okay.
And
that's it.
Okay, awesome. Great questions. And I think that's it for today. And